I'm Lotta Fanning. I was born in Danbury Hospital when it had one building.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a native Danburian. My mother had come from Armonk, New York in 1916 when she was 15 years old to live on the farm in Danbury. Her father had just bought 125 acres
Oh, wow.
of a dairy and apple orchard farms. And my father had come down from New Hampshire in 1925, and he was on the next farm, and that was a chicken farm and vegetable farm.
Right next to the
Right
orchard
next to,
where your
right
mom
next to the Waterbury farm, which my mother was a Waterbury. And that was,
That's how they met?
and a couple of years later they were married, and I had a sister that was born in 1928, but she died at 7 with spinal meningitis, so I never really knew her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a brother later. He too is deceased.
And then when were you born?
I was born in 1930, October 28th, so I'm
Oh, so it's
88
coming
years
up.
88 years old.
Well, happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you.
We're very happy to have you here. So, do you have a particular memory of Danbury that you like to share with people, or a story?
Well, Danbury was all farms up in the King Street area, was all King Street District, they called it.
Mhm.
And they didn't have any names for the roads, the little country roads. And they decided they were going to give a name to it. So they gave it a name of Lenape Ridge Road, sounded like an Indian name or something. But we didn't have school buses, and we had to walk to the Red Chapel and get the school bus, and there were about 8 or so of us. We'd walk down, but there were other kids down by the Red Chapel that were waiting for the school bus too. Eventually they named the road, put the sign up. Well, there's some wise boys down on that, and they eventually changed the sign to read, "Do you want to be on the Ridge Road?"
Oh, no.
And eventually, when the town heard about it, they changed it to South King Street. So that's what it is today.
Oh, wow. Now, how far did you have to walk? How far?
About a half mile, but it was all downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then uphill on the way home.
All uphill going home. Exactly.
And then you stayed
It was narrow dirt roads
Oh, wow.
with gutters on each side for drainage. In the winter, the men would have to shovel the snow by hand on the WPA for $1 a day.
Oh, wow.
That we were in the King Street District RFD4, Rural Federal District, I think it was. And that's...
Oh, wow. And now you stayed in Danbury ever since
I'm a
then?
native Danburian.
The whole time?
Still am.
Wow. Did you end up getting married, have children of your own
Yes.
here?
Yes, I had 4 children. I lost one. And when he was 22 years old, just home from the Navy for 8 months, and he was killed in an auto accident.
Oh, how tragic.
And yes, he wasn't even going fast, but he had a blowout, and he spun around and hit a bridge abutment, put a dent in the fender, but he had a punctured aorta,
Oh, wow.
and he was killed instantly.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't mind telling me, why did you want to participate in our oral history project?
Tell you the truth, I didn't know, but my daughter-in-law, I was away on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
When I come home, she told me she had signed me up because I'm always talking about the good old days.
Yeah. Well, we're very happy that you're here. And I see that you wrote down a bunch of things here. Is there...
That's just little notes. One of the things, we didn't have electricity until about 1940.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived, like I said, about a half mile up that road across the way from the overlooked farm. And my mother would be so happy when she would get Sears Roebuck or Montgomery Ward or Penny's big, thick catalogs, which they were. And she would keep the new ones and take the old ones up into the outhouse and use them as toilet paper.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, jeez. That was country living.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
It's so funny to think about that as, you know, this area being country when it's now so built up and they continue.
Well, this was still the city to me.
Yeah.
I was out in the country and it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Not many people lived out there because the big farms were 100, 125 acres for each farm.
Mm-hmm.
And there were several dairy farms, and they made their own, bottled their own milk and took it to their own customers in glass bottles.
Oh, and you were one of those customers? Do you
No,
remember?
my father used to take his milk to the Ryder Dairy, which was right next to the New Street School where I went to school. That school is where the firehouse is today on New Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to... That's really amazing. Do you have any other little tidbits that you'd like to share?
I told you about the Wanapee Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
There were several dairies that had big farms, and there was one farm that was a chicken farm, and they raised chickens from, they hatched the eggs, raised chickens, and sold the chickens or the baby chicks to other farmers. And I remember those days. And the farmers would get them maybe 50 or 100 at a time. And they had an incubator, which was a stove, but it had a hood real low to the floor. And they'd always have nice, clean shavings so we could sit on as little kids and be warm and watch them play with these baby chicks, which were all nice and soft.
That sounds so fun.
It wasn't much fun in the country because there was a lot of hard work.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was my father's best little farmerette that lived. We used to have to hay the fields, and the hay rake that I sat on at 10 years old had two wheels this high, and there was a seat here, but in back of the seat were like forks all the way across, but rounded. And as the horse was pulling me, I'm sitting there, and the hay is being bunched up. And when it got full, then I would have this big handle that I would release so that it would fall out. And my father was behind me somewhere, bunching up the hay so that in the afternoon, we could go and get the hay wagon, which I would be having a team of horses. Dick and Dan were those horses. And he would first put it in the bottom of the wagon, then on the four corners, and then all the way around. And then he'd do the same thing and keep doing it until he couldn't reach it any higher.
Oh, wow.
And then I'd he'd throw me a rope, and we'd tie it down, and we'd take it back to the overlooked farm where my father was using the barns at the time. And they would tie it down, and then we would put it up in the hayloft.
That's such a good story. Well, if there's anything else that you would like to share with us, that would be great.
You have other questions?
It was just kind of, whatever you'd like to share. So I don't have any specific questions for you. We're just grateful that you're here and willing to participate. You're our first participant in our project. So we're sort of just feeling our way, you know what I mean? Trying to figure out.
The Bentley family lived on the overlooked farm across the street from our little house that we lived in, the four-room house I told you about. And he would come up in the summer. That was his summer home. And he had 3 kids and his wife. And he'd bring his maid with him, and they'd spend the whole summer. And he had 5 riding horses. Did I tell you that? Oh, they had 5 riding horses. Chico, Jewel, Chapo, Nan, and Rudy. Rudy.
I'm amazed that you remember their names.
Rudy was a blind horse. He had made a deal with my father. Like I said, he was a professor at Hunter College, and he had this big farm with big barns and everything. And he didn't use them, other than he had these 5 horses. My father always wanted to become a farmer like his family had been. And he told my father that he could use his barns, his farmland, and if he would take care of his 5 horses. So the deal was made. Eventually my father got as many as 14 cows, milking cows. And every day he would have to milk those cows by hand.
Oh, wow.
There was no electric equipment like they have today.
Right.
And then the milk would be taken down to the Ryder Dairy, like I told you before. And then...
Now, did you help with the milking?
When I was a teenager, by then the Bentleys had moved away in 1943. And my father had bought 12 acres of land over on Boyce Road and built a small farm there. But neighbors that had the property that didn't use it let my father use it, so he again was continuing his farm. And what was you asked me?
If you helped with the milking.
Oh, and I would milk 2 cows at night. I didn't have to milk them before I went to school, but I had to bring in the cows from the fields when my father was out working someplace else. And I would call, come boss, and that one cow would always be wearing a cowbell, so he would know, I would know which field they were in. But the cows sort of had, they knew when it was time to come, and they would all follow one another back to the barn. And by that time I had already put the hay in front of them for the food. But when the cows would come into the barn, they knew which stanchion was their own. It was so funny.
Interesting. Must have been very smart animals.
Yeah. And they each had their own name.
Don't tell me you remember all their names.
Patsy, Pansy, Polly, Brownie. I can't remember the other ones. Liz. There were about 14,
Wow.
but I do remember things like that.